We have an in-studio guest. Well, I guess it's the first time ever for the Las Vegas studio. Bristol, we've had guys in there before, but usually I'm over here by myself in Las Vegas. But today I am joined by UFC heavyweight Travis Browne, who did not actually fly out to Las Vegas just to do this podcast, although I think he'd be willing to do that. He is in Las Vegas training for his fight in Halifax against Derek Lewis. Travis, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. And, our listeners obviously don't know this, but, I just randomly ran into you in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I did know that there was a possibility of you coming out, but, then when we ran into each other, you're like, well, I'm doing my whole camp out here. Yeah. And there has been some questions over where is Travis training for this fight. So I'll go ahead and let you answer that for us now.
Yeah, I'm training with Ricky Lindell, Ray Seffo, and then also Edmond Tarverdyan. Our Edmond, comes out and puts in some work, and it's how it's going now.
Yeah, well, you've been out to Vegas for camps in the past, but usually the bulk of your work since you joined Tarverdyan has been in California.
Yes.
So what is what's behind the change to host most of it out here in Vegas?
It's just getting consistent work and having consistent bodies out here in Vegas, and especially for the guy that I'm facing right now. It's just one of those things where as a team we felt it better for me to do the camp out here based on that. The bodies are out here, so instead of flying guys in or constantly traveling to different places, it's better to go where the bodies are. So.
Mm-hmm. And you got Lundell as your grappling coach. He's actually been on this podcast before. And Ray Seffo, everybody knows him. So Tarverdyan, you mentioned him. And there were some internet rumors out there that you were not using Edmond Tarverdyan anymore. Yep. Clearly those were not accurate. But what is your relationship like with Edmond now, and how big of a part of camp is he? You said he's flown out a couple times. Is he your head coach? Do you have a head coach? What is Edmond's exact role in your camp?
Yeah, so he's still my coach. And he comes out quite a bit. He comes out every week to help out. The only difference is it's not in his gym, the man has a family, he has kids. So it's one of those things for me to ask another man to come out for, 2-3 months. You just can't do that. So, at this camp, he's not as big of a part as he had been previously, but he is still part of this camp. These places are like tabloids, you know what I mean? It's like the National Enquirer that you pick up or that you look at whenever checking out of a grocery store. You can't believe everything you read. It's ridiculous. And to be honest with you, it's like, unfortunately, it's everywhere, right? The tabloid kind of style is everywhere. But the MMA community, the MMA media community, unfortunately, most of them are just that. They're like tabloid. They're looking for, a headline that they can write. And it's sad because there has to be a market for that as well. And people believe what they read in a headline without really researching it or anything like that. But can you blame them because it's the media? It's supposed to be telling the truth, but it's not.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
I think it's people understanding the difference between what media is and then, what, in my mom's basement, MMA.com, and there is a lot of those. And I'm sure that there are in other sports as well. This one, it seems like there are quite a few of them, and they do have like a bigger reach than necessarily in some other sports. So you get that a little bit. Yeah. Right? So the Edmond rumor that's all it was. It was completely fabricated out of nothing, or was there any consideration as to, because you did switch up your camp just slightly, was there any consideration as to, I need to make a change here? And
that's all it was, is that the location of my camp was different. You know what I mean? So, for instance, when I was doing my camps in, like, my whole camp in L.A., Ricky Lindell would come out once a week. Mm-hmm. And, you know what I mean? But he's still my coach. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. We're just doing it out here where, again, I'm getting consistent work with the guys that I need to get it done with. So, that was the only change. You know what I mean? And especially what lets me down is there are prominent figures in the MMA community that are reading these headlines and believing them. You know what I mean? And then they go on their podcast or on their media and then they say something. So now it's all of a sudden true when they didn't even know. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Nobody's asked me. You're the first one. You know what I mean? I saw you and you're the first and only one to ask me if it was true. all these other media outlets are running off of rumors that they got off of MMAmomsbasement.com. You know what I mean? So it's like, what? You know what I mean? So just let the fire go and let them all look dumb. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, guys, give me a break.
Well, sticking on this Tarverdyan topic, I don't need to tell you, in the history of the sport, he might be the most unpopular coach.
Sure.
He might be the most unpopular coach in the history of the sport. And so you're sticking with him.
Yeah.
So tell us why, and what do you think of the criticisms that he's faced recently? You know, not just with you, but of course with Ronda Rousey and really most of the fighters that he's cornered in the UFC, he has faced some level of criticism. Mm-hmm. What do you make of all that?
I think it's easy to judge from the outside. You know, anybody that I've ever had in camp to work with me as a training partner, they are always like, man, Edmond knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean? And so he has a great fight IQ, you know, and he has good coaching and you know, it's about the athletes going out there and performing. You know what I mean? Because some of it is like every coach has lost. Every champion with the you know, exclusion of John Jones has lost. You know, and it's like, why didn't the community come down on those coaches? You know, where was everybody there then? You know what I mean? Why are you singling him out, kind of thing? And it isn't fair, but life isn't fair. You know what I mean? And I think what happens is a lot of coaches are like, how do I say it? Like they want to look good in the public, so they'll say kind of the right things, even though maybe behind closed doors you talk to them and they're like, yeah, whatever. I just said it for radio. I just said it for, you know, like for the public view, but he doesn't care. That's the difference. Like he doesn't care about looking good to everybody. He cares about, you know, looking good or being good to the people that are around him. Mm-hmm. You know, being a good coach. That's why he doesn't have 50 guys in his stable. That's what, you know what I mean? It's like, well, what do you do? You know, it's like, it's for the wrong reasons, you know, but I understand that a guy like that could be easier to dislike because he doesn't care. So it's easy to cast guys like that. I think I kind of get the same rap sometimes. You know, I'm disliked a lot, and it's probably for the wrong reasons. You know, people don't know me. They haven't walked a day in my shoes. They haven't got to know me. They don't sit down next to me and talk to me. You know, they read what people have to say about me, and I don't care. I'm not going to correct everybody. I don't have enough time. That's one thing we don't get back in this life is time. You know, and I'm not going to spend time correcting everybody that has something negative to say about me.
Two things specifically I want to ask you about Edmond before we move on to a different topic is I think a lot of people are, and you and I have spoken about this actually before, is that I think it's easy for them to criticize him because he is a boxing coach. And then when you look at his two high-profile athletes, which is yourself and Ronda, one criticism about your guys' recent fights is that you're trying to box too much. A lot of people are saying it looks like they're trying to box too much. Where's Travis's kicks? Where's Travis's wrestling? Oh. You know, Ronda, of course, when she lost to Holly Holm, there were a lot of people who thought, why is she trying to stand with Holly Holm? You know, Holly Holm is a professional boxer. So what do you think of that sense, and that, you know, Edmond, what you're saying is he's a great coach, but is he a boxing coach? Is he a full MMA coach?
So speaking for myself, right, I went to Edmond to work on specifically footwork and my hands. Now, it was up to me, you know, during my fights to work on my kicks and grappling and stuff like that. And that was just something, you know, that I, for whatever reason, in my own mind, it wasn't at the front of my mind, you know. Where I think now, you know, when after, you know, I've had a tough year. After a year like this, I really had to sit back and be like, okay, like, I've developed these skills. How do I incorporate them now into, like, the full scope of what I'm able to do? I think what was happening is I got to a certain point, and it was pretty high in the rankings, based solely off of athletic ability, right? Like, I didn't really have any coach that was like, yes, that's my student, right? Like, I got a lot of my coaching from a lot of my training partners. You know, they're high-level training partners. You had Phil Davis, Brandon Vera, John Jones, even Andrei Arlovsky, guys that were in the gym. That's who I was learning a lot from. Yes, I had coaches, and they were good coaches. I'm not saying that they're bad coaches, but I never really learned how to like fight technically. And so I felt like got to a certain spot in my career based off my athletic ability. So I wanted to learn specifics of the sport. And so I went to Edmond. I started learning specifics of the sport. But then in my own mind, I look back now, and it's like I started to depend too much on my skill level and not use my athletic ability. And so then now I'm like sitting here after the Verdun fight, like, what the hell is going on, right? And I'm like, yeah, I need to get back to being athletic as I can be, but also using a skill set that I've learned over the years and incorporating it all, and I think too, right now in this generation of coaching is very young in the sport, just like the athletes are young in the sport. We just had was it in 14 or 13, whereas the 20-year anniversary of the UFC, you know what I mean? Like 20 years of a sport being around.
Yeah.
We are there's the OGs like the Chuck Liddells and the Rich Franklins and the Ken Shamrock and T. Ortiz and, Randy Couture. Those are OGs of the sport, but I'm still part of that first generation. All of us are. And so I think the coaching is on the first generation as well. And I think as the sport evolves, the coaching will get better. You'll start to get athletes that have a great coaching mind as well, start to coach some of these athletes that are coming up in the next generation. So long-winded answer to your question.
Yeah.
But I do feel that Edmond has good mindset and good tactics for MMA fighter. I think in using myself as an example, I limited myself during those times. But again, I've only been in this whole sport for 8 years, in the UFC for 7 of them, against the top guys in the UFC for 4 out of those 7 years. And it's like, I need to learn. You know what I mean? And that's fast track. I don't care who you are. How long have you been doing, journalism, reporting? Has it been 6-7 years to get to where you're at, or has it been longer? I mean, schooling and, internships or, starting off, this guy gave me a shot, and then building up. I mean, 6-7 years is nothing.
Yeah.
And that's how long I've been learning the sport for.
Yeah.
It hasn't even been a decade that I was thinking about fighting. It hasn't been a decade. It's been 7-8 years.